There's a reason I'm here, because Jay is frozen. So, Manchester United 0, Atletico Madrid 1. Someone's got to save it. Therapy stand is in session once again. Guys, I'm not supposed to be here, but seeing as Jay's having a few technical difficulties, I'll step in for a little bit. Jordan, straight away I'm going to go to you. Thoughts on this result? Because right now, I don't know what to make of it, genuinely.
Yeah, it wasn't how I thought the game was going to go. I thought after the Spurs game, we were going to bounce into it with some momentum, and the players were going to rise to the occasion. A full house Champions League night. There's no greater feeling, no greater sight. The excitement all day, and the players just didn't turn up. So many big names just did not show up, and I don't think that was a great Atletico Madrid team. I just don't think that we showed up. Our big players, who on big nights you expect to be able to lean on, just weren't there. Bruno didn't deliver. I didn't think Ronaldo played great. He was very frustrated. And once again, story of this season, Harry Maguire has cost us a goal. And we're out. And our season is over in March. Season's done. And it could be a long time before we're back in that Champions League. It is frustrated. The referee was awful. I thought Atletico
can't blame it all on the referee, though.
No, and I'm not. I was just about to say, I think the Madrid played up to him, and we put him in a position to. I think Alex made the comment before we went live, so that the team epitomised their manager. But that is what a good manager does, isn't it? A good manager will put his influence on the team, and he's done it time and time again. We should know what to expect. We know what they're going to do, because that's who he is as a person, and he continues to build the same type of team. It's just frustrating. It really is.
Jay, obviously we got you back now, so it's not a good night if you're a United supporter tonight at the Champions League, as we've already discussed with Jordan. Bit of a weird performance. A lot of people we saw saying Fred had a good game. A few people saying, even McTominay was okay in parts. Sancho, let's be honest with you, that's probably one of his worst performances in a United shirt this season. I think most people on this form would agree right now. And Bruno, very, very petulant, very petulant. And seeing him at the end of that game was very disappointing. Jay, how do you sum up that match right now? And as Jordan said there quite rightly, does that feel like it's the end of the season already? Is there anything to play for?
No. In one word, the performance for me was anemic. Literally. The manager tonight, I thought he dropped. Starting Harry Maguire showed lack of courage in his convictions. I think Bruno tonight, I messaged you during the game, Droddy. I said that Bruno tonight literally brought all his dummies and sped every one of them out of the pram after about 50 minutes. It was probably the most petulant performance I've seen from Bruno during his time at the club, and we've all sung his praises, but his behaviour on the pitch has been glossed over by his stats and his goals and assists. Like, where do we go from here? Where we go from here, gentlemen, is 6th or 7th place. If the players could not raise their game tonight at home to Atleti, what are they going to do come April and May when we are 10 points adrift from 4th place? This now, guys, tonight, this tipping point, if ever there was any doubt that this current, I'm not going to say team, because it's not a team, it's a group of individuals that are just freestyling the pitch. If there's ever a tipping point that this squad of players is broken, needs an absolute, complete and utter overhaul, it's tonight, to not even try in the second half. I think that we register one shot on goal in the second half. We can go on and on about individual performances, but at the end of the day, gentlemen, we are supposed to be, quote unquote, a team. We're supposed to be this European powerhouse, but we're not a powerhouse anymore. We've only gotten to the quarterfinals of a Champions League on 2 occasions since Ferguson left in 2013. So I said before many times, guys, in shows that we are Manchester United, the brand that's living off the history and the fumes of the past. And it's a sad, sad, sad night. I'm actually finding it hard to even do the show tonight because I didn't think we could stoop any lower than the embarrassments against Man and Liverpool. And I think now, guys, we are on the cusp of yet another embarrassment to Liverpool in a few weeks' time. I'm never lost for words, but tonight, guys, that performance, it was just, to say embarrassing is, I'm done, guys. Seriously, this team is done. It's done for me.
I kind of feel right now, if that's the performance we're going to put in the Champions League, I don't want to be in the Champions League next season. What is the point in being in the elite tournament in Europe if you cannot compete at that level? Because every time we get in there, for the last couple of seasons, we seem to be having these abject performances. Alex, you're nodding your head there. I'm kind of thinking right now, especially with Arsenal's position in the league, we're not going to get to the Champions League. They're 1 point ahead, 3 games in hand. I know people say they've got losable games. Does it matter if we get in the Champions League? Would you want to get Champions League at the moment based on what we currently have?
Like, we've looked at Arsenal, and I know myself as well. Like, I really have, as like the sort of banter club, and like we've laughed at their signings and like what they've been doing over the past few years. But who's going to be laughing in the end? Like, I don't think we have a single chance of catching them for top 4. And okay, them not having Europe played a massive part in that. But like you say, it doesn't matter likewise with them really about us being in the Champions League at the moment because we're not really good enough. We've had this issue. It's been a massive issue under Ragnar, but it was also an issue under Ollie that I remember that we were always doing it under Ollie so many times, just turning up for one half. So it clearly isn't a manager issue with that. It's the players that they only seem to be able to motivate themselves for one half. And I just don't get what's up. Like it with City, like we say about that City performance being terrible. But I thought in the first half against City, we were all right. And then likewise tonight, we were all right in the first half. But it's so weird that this team, no matter who we're against, because against Middlesbrough as well, we were like brilliant in the first half, and then in the second half, we were absolutely useless. So it's not even like it's a case of just getting burnt out against a really good team. It's just this team always only turns up for one half. And likewise, what I said about the manager. So it's not even a manager issue, clearly. It's just they just have an absolutely shocking mentality. It's like if you would have told us, like I remember doing shows last year when we were like talking about like Jay and Kev, you would have been on the shows with like when we were thinking, and I genuinely thought at the time when we were building momentum towards like being in like a little title challenge, and I actually deluded myself into like fully believing it. And then we get to the summer, you sign Ronaldo, Sancho, Varane, 3 of like the best players in the world. And then if you would have told us then in that summer, you signed literally 3 of the best players in the world. We all said we needed a centre back. We all said we needed a right winger who later turned out to be a left winger. And then signing Ronaldo, literally one of the best players of all time. And then if you say we were going to be in what we're in now, March, and out of every single competition and pretty much even out of top 4, you'd never believe it. It's like, I don't understand what went wrong in this season, but it just seems to be like, I think what Skulls was saying, it's not even that they're bad players. It's just, they just have shocking mentality. And it's like Keane said all those years ago about like, oh, these players threw, when we still had Ollie as a manager, these players threw Mourinho under the bus, and make no mistake about it, they'll throw Ollie under the bus. And it just seems to just be a mentality issue. And we just need a complete strip out. We're really lucky that in the summer we're losing lots of the big names, and I'm not saying necessarily they would be the first ones that need to go, but they are going nonetheless. And then the following summer again, loads of contracts are up. But my big worry is that a lot of these players will be coming into like 1 year left, 2 years left, like Maguire, for example. And we've seen what this club was like with Smalling, with Jones, with Pereira, and that I worry that we're going to give the likes of Maguire, arguably even Shaw, new contracts. And new massive contracts again, and then we just are stuck with them for another prolonged period.
I'm going to switch over to Jay now. So Jay, you can take the reins, as I've got a lot to do with Adam and Beth will be sending in their vlogs very shortly after this this therapy stand. Kev, you haven't spoken yet. I just want to get your opinion on how did you see that game and where do United go from here? Anyway, I've got to go, guys. So Jay, I'll hand over to you, and Kev, give us your thoughts.
Thanks, Jordy. Thank you very much for coming on.
Thanks very much. Where do I start? Going into this evening's game, I think like the crowd at Old Trafford, that's the one thing that got me annoyed is you've got a home section there that is fully behind you. And even before the match, I think Rio Ferdinand said the anticipation was building, fans were there hours before kickoff, and rightly so they should be. It's a knockout game of a Champions League. But if you're asking us what we've actually learned from this evening, without at the risk of repeating what other people have said, it's that we are no longer dining at the top table in European football. And we probably deluded ourselves into actually thinking, I'm at the point where I was like, what's the point actually going through this evening? If anything, we probably saved embarrassment of playing a really, really top team and getting done over 2 games. So in that sense, we've learned it in the Premier League as well, haven't we? We've had beatings. We've been totally outclassed by the likes of Liverpool and Manchester City this season, which has been difficult to take. But if anything, it's a slap in the face and it puts manners on you. It's almost like this is where you are now as a club. And we've had to accept that. And tonight, it's just the European side of things that you have to accept exactly where you are. We can dig into whatever you want. That's without swearing. Simeone, don't get me started on him. If we want to talk about the referee, I wouldn't be surprised if the referee was a robot and Simeone was stood on the sideline and he was controlling him, and that's why he ran off at the end because he had to go and get... That referee was an absolute joke today. And I am not blaming it on the referee, but there are certain instances in that match that I'm screaming at the telly going, when a player goes down, surely you only stop the game for a head injury. This guy literally lost control of the game. And Darren Fletcher getting booked just sort of kind of topped it off. You know, you're like, Darren Fletcher getting booked. But I honestly, I've been supporting Man United far too long now. I know exactly where we are. People can call us banter club, call us whatever you want. But tonight, again, the realisation that Manchester United are no longer in that elite European setup. And I think we've saved ourselves, like I say, from maybe a bit of embarrassment because there are some top clubs left in the Champions League. And one thing's for sure, taking that Champions League music at the start of the game, because you're not going to be hearing it at Old Trafford. It's the 15th of March today, and Manchester United's season has ended. We've got to go through. We've still got to go through till the end of May yet, and it ends on the 15th of March.
Kevin, thank you very much for those sobering words. I remember back, we're always going to go back to the glory days, but I can remember Ferguson, because a couple of seasons where mid-late March, the title was almost wrapped up, and we were focusing on the Champions League. Do you remember that, Jordan?
I do. Yeah, it was always get the season wrapped up by the end of March, beginning of April, and then go all out on Europe. Yeah,
I remember back in those days being like, even when we were winning leagues, being like, oh god, this is a really pretty shit team, really. When you're looking like it on the face of things, like in the 2013, it was like just seemed like RVP and Carrick carrying us, and then just being like, this is a fucking shit team. And now that team would just absolutely obliterate this team.
Yeah,
but look, guys, it's very easy. Sorry, Jordan. It's very easy for us to blame the referee, right? The referee, it was like he was some young lad on work experience. He was shocking. He was inconsistent. We can use whatever terms we want, but we shouldn't be predicating our hopes and dreams of progressing on the referee. And all our sons play football, and Adam, Alex, your son obviously going to play football as well. And one of the first things your son's going to learn playing football is you got one of these and two of these. Play to the whistle. Not rocket science. basic football 101. And Jordan, you come in here and you, by all means, lambast our players for that first goal. By all means, I want to hear your views on that, please.
It's just more of what we've seen all season. And this comes down to, a manager has to come in that is ballsy enough to look at it and go, Harry Maguire shouldn't be starting games because it's the domino effect it has onto the other defenders. Look, we've looked this season a much more composed back four with Lindelof and Varane in there. Forget about the forgotten man, Eric Bailly, when he's fit. I'd start him over Harry Maguire. And this is the thing is I don't know what is going on behind the scenes. I don't know who on the board is influencing the manager to say that you have to start Harry Maguire, or is it just the pressure of the armbands? Like we said on the last show we were on, heavy is the crown. He's struggling to wear it. Somebody needs to take it off of him. But the point you said about the referee, Jay, is exactly what I was going to say. That is European football. Like, we've seen this, a million times before, and we've got to be clever. We've got to be smart. We know that that's what's going to happen, and we can't be in a position where our players are being petulant, playing up to the referee, because the more that the opposition to see that, the more they're going to do it, especially when you've got somebody like Simeone in the dugout. That is exactly what he's going to do. He's going to send them out there to do it even more. And this is where, and I'm not throwing it at Rangnick, but this is the elite level of management in the Champions League. The difference is not sometimes won on the pitch; it's actually won from the dugout. And you look at our dugouts. You've got Rangnick, you've got Darren Fletcher. Now Darren Fletcher then went and got himself a yellow card, right? And then went and stood against the wall like a naughty school kid. I said to Alex before, I would have had more respect for him if he got himself a red card and owned it and actually argued his point. Instead, he's got his yellow card and his arse went. He had to go and stand against the wall. It's pathetic. And that is what we are. That is what we are. That is what we've become. You've got petulant Bruno running onto the pitch at the end, screaming, and it's a shambles. And I want to reiterate Alex's point from earlier that it is a good thing that we are going into the summer where so many players are actually at the end of their cycle at Manchester United, that a manager can actually come in and move some of these big name Charlies on and actually build a team that he believes in and actually has a fresh start, and is not given players and told you have to work with these players. Because, it isn't Ragnick's fault. He's come in, he's picked up the reins, and he's trying to make the best of a really, really bad situation. What
it is, sorry, Jordan, I would say Manchester, we know we're not anyway, but in comparison to the masters of the dark arts, dark arts.
What? Are you back on grinding again?
I'm drinking water tonight as well, Jesus. The masters of football shithousery, as I'm going to put it down as tonight. Manchester United, a lot of English clubs aren't, in comparison to that this evening, and not streetwise. And that's exactly, however you look at that this evening. I mean, you mentioned Bruno Fernandes there. He would probably fit perfectly into that Atletico Madrid team, because that's everything that they carry on and do. Whereas we only really, maybe Ronaldo to an extent, but we've got Bruno. Nobody else is smart enough in that Manchester United team. Even if we found ourselves 1-0 up with 10 minutes left, we wouldn't be carrying on like that. The slightest foul goal down, maybe Cavani as well, you could throw in there somebody that would. But it does come down to, how much do you want to win it? Now, whether you think it's great to watch or whatever, personally, I'd go upset. I wouldn't want Simeone as Manchester United manager, and I certainly would not wanting to watch that every week. The theatrical side of football shithousery, as I call it. I would not like to watch that. But again, rival fans that are watching this in the comment section are probably going to throw back, well, Kev, who's through the quarterfinals? And it's them, innit?
I think it's just like a sort of like British type thing of like, or the Premier League type thing that we all look at it. We always look down on it because Premier League teams, okay, you have certain players that do play like that. But whenever the Premier League teams go into Europe and stuff, and you see teams play like that, we always complain about it. But I've like listened to like radio shows and stuff talk about it, that like continental teams like look down at us and like, why do the English teams always complain about that? Because
Well,
that's how it is, and
it.
that's how that we're just all naive to it, and we're ignorant to how they play, and that they're actually smart.
England national team. How many times has it happened in international tournaments?
So many times.
Diego Simeone, who's managing Atletico Madrid tonight, gets David Beckham sent off in the World Cup in '98. Even Ronaldo for Christ's sake got Rooney sent
Portugal,
off.
Yeah, exactly.
It's just stuff like that, and is it the English mentality? To be honest, I don't know.
But do you know what? It is true, but we had enough big name players out there to try and win that game. Sancho had an absolute shocker tonight. I never thought that was coming after the form he's shown. And Rashford, again, makes some of those touches and the way you give the ball away. What has happened to him?
But like with Rashford, I've said it on like a show fairly recently. I'm like, we've passed the point now. I mean, I've defended Rashford for so many years on the show, but we've passed the point now where you can play him into form. So I don't know why he came on today. I said, like, taking Bruno off. Okay, a lot of people have had a go at Bruno, but Bruno was shit last game as well against Atletico, but he still provided the assist that got us back into the game. So I would have brought Pogba on and then just played him wide rather than bringing Rashford on. Rashford has shown nothing this entire season that would have deemed him that he should have been brought on. If it was a game like, okay, if you play against City or Liverpool or whatever that play a high line and you can hit them on the break with Rashford's pace, fair enough. But Rashford was going to never offer anything in the form he's in a game like this. So I have no, like, I like Rangnick and I back Rangnick, but that was one thing. I even tweeted it out before it even, as it was happening. I was like, why have we brought Rashford on when he's playing like this? And then he came on and he's been just as bad as he's been the entire season.
What was the point?
Yeah.
Gentlemen, I'm now putting Marcus Rashford firmly on the same bus of sofa that I put Maguire on last season. And we'll see if Rashford ever gets off it. Like, he came on tonight. His passing was sloppy at best. Last weekend, some of the fans were giving him plaudits because he ran about. Oh my God, he ran about. Surely that is the basic prerequisite of being a footballer at any level. And tonight he was so bad. It was the 86th minute and he misplaced a pass to Delo when we were almost on the cusp of getting another cross in the box. I think before I passed the play, Mata had put 3 crosses in the box in the space of about 5 minutes. And he missed his pass to Delo. Delo had to go and make a foul, get a yellow card, stop a counter-attack. And that was because the Rashford been sloppy. But I take your point 100%. He shouldn't be on the pitch tonight. Absolutely not. Mata came on tonight. I think for Mata, personally, I brought him on at half-time. It was a perfect game for him because he wouldn't have to run, he wouldn't have to track, but he wouldn't have to press. He just literally sit in the ball, and spray the passes around like he did 10 years ago. It was a perfect game, second half for Mata. I personally would have brought him on and taken Maguire off and gone 3 at the back. I'm sure. I know a lot of people on Twitter were also calling for that. But look, you can laud or you can slag off the cuteness, my word, shithousery, Kevin's word, of Atleti. But at the end of the day, surely the nature of the game is to win, and is to win by any means necessary. And that, gentlemen, is what happened tonight. Atleti schooled us. Over 180 minutes, they schooled us. They were the better team. They were definitely better coached. Have they got the better players? That's debatable. But the best team won, gentlemen. And you can blame the referee, you can blame Simeone, you can blame play acting, blame whoever you want. But England, through successive World Cups and European Championships, got beaten by Italy many times.
Another master of the dark arts, Italy, a perfect team that
and even Brazil and the South Americans. So I don't know, is it part of the old ethos of the English gentleman that it's not acceptable to win and not bend some rules? But in life, business, does everybody not bend some rules and find some grey areas, get the job done? That's just life, gentlemen. And we can moan and groan about getting knocked out. End of the day, guys, we weren't good enough. Simply were not good enough. And our players in the second half were a complete disgrace to Jersey. I never thought I'd be saying this after Champions League performance, that the players wore a square jersey. Fred, first half, I thought he was a solid 7.5 out of 10. Well, second half, he must have left his brilliant passport in the showers, because it was back to old Fred that we've seen the last couple of seasons. So, gentlemen, the question is now, we now have what? Mid-March, we've all of April, we've all of May. Where are we going from here? There's a lot of football to be played. We are literally an irrelevance right now in the Premiership. We are an irrelevance. Let's call it a spade, gentlemen. We're in the Premiership. We are irrelevant right now. We're irrelevant in European football. None of us wants to sit next season and watch Conference League or Europa League. So right now, we are very relevant in social media terms and marketing terms and all that jazz. But in football terms, we are right now, gentlemen, an irrelevance. And I never thought in all my years watching United, I'd be saying that. Kevin, what do you think?
Do you know what just come into my head? I say that then. There used to be a song that United fans sung, and it was, "We're Man United, we do what we want." We used to, obviously, when we were successful. And at the minute, it's almost like you're Man United, you'll do as you're told. Because teams turn up at Old Trafford. I don't think anybody sees it as a fortress. Look at the teams over the years that are coming there and picking up 3 points. You've got teams like, Newcastle and who this season, like the likes of Wolves, Aston Villa, and just all these records that, the first time they've won at Old Trafford in 50 odd years. It's like
Sheffield United last season as well.
Exactly. Knocked out to Middlesbrough in the FA Cup this season, a good chance of a cup run. And the sad thing is, I don't think anyone's bothered. I think people just look at the name Manchester United. Yes, they're a big club. And like you say, yeah, they'll make money and they probably always will. But on the football side of things, just at the point where there's none of that standing in the tunnel, looking across at the opposition and thinking, geez, look at these people are looking across and probably thinking that they're beatable. And how many times under Sir Alex Ferguson did we have teams in that tunnel where opposition players admitted after retiring that they knew they were beat before they even went out on the pitch? Same with the great Liverpool team all them years ago. It was exactly the same. And now we don't have that. We've got individuals, like you say. We are not a team. If you look through the individuals this evening compared to Atletico Madrid, maybe man for man, you would say, oh, he's better than him in United's favour. But look at the performance they've put in as a team. Well drilled, football shithouser, whatever you want to call it, masters of the dark arts. But in comparison to Manchester United, we're living off what happened on Saturday, where we all get excited. Ronaldo, moments of brilliance, absolute brilliant on Saturday, Ronaldo. And then yet this evening, you're not telling me that Diego Simeone's not looked at that performance on Saturday and he's given instruction there and done an absolute job on Ronaldo. And you could see,
is it a different game if Matic hadn't played against Spurs, Ronaldo didn't play against Spurs, and they were both rested and played against today? Because let's be honest, the top four's gone anyway. So did we need to play them when we've got this important game 3 days later? In hindsight,
such small margins. Like
That's
you could say, the
point.
game would have been completely different if Alanga's Alanga, that shot that bounced off Oblak's head, if that goes in, could be a completely different game as well. It's just fine margins at the highest level.
But I think that Radnick was under immense pressure to, quote unquote, bounce back and get a win at home to Spurs after the debacle the previous weekend. So I think he would have been under immense pressure to play Ronaldo and play Matic in that Spurs game, personally.
Well, go back to Mourinho days. Can you remember when Mourinho wrote the league off to go win the league?
Yeah. Win Europa League.
Did we finish like 5th or 6th last season?
6.
Yeah. I mean, you look at it, and in hindsight, I didn't say it the other day because it didn't cross my mind, but I'm just sat here thinking about it, and I'm thinking, Ronaldo's performance the other day, but he wasn't the same today. Did we miss Matic and that calmness in the midfield? like, should he have not played those players with this game 3 days later?
Jordan, I thought the exact same this evening when you mentioned about Mourinho putting all his eggs in the Europa League basket that season, where, like you say, we finished 6th, was it? And he went all in for that. The only thing I would say is that was more at that stage with the squad, and the fact it was the Europa League was a lot more achievable than what probably some fans were clinging on to this season, of the only way we can get back into the Champions League is to win it this season.
But you don't know the run to the final. You don't know who we would have drawn in the next round. I get it, but I mean, realistically, are we going to finish in the top 4? We're not going to finish in the top 4. No,
we're not.
The thing is with Matic as well is like Matic obviously would have made in hindsight a really big difference today. But did you guys expect, like, obviously Atletico are known for sitting deep, but I would expect them to play like that against like City or Liverpool, but I didn't really expect them to play the way they did tonight against us, because obviously they showed in the first leg they didn't really play like that deep and everything against us really in that first leg, and it kind of surprised me how they played tonight and how dominant, especially in the first half, we were. So in hindsight, Matic would have made an absolute massive difference in that team, because his passing compared to like some McTominay and Fred from that deeper midfield role is absolutely huge. But hindsight's 2020, isn't it? So it's hard.
Also, the fact as well, La Liga changed Atletico Madrid game the weekend to play it on Friday night. We played late on Saturday. So we had a very, very fast turnaround between Saturday night and tonight. So those Letty players were, again, maybe here I'm trying to mitigate the loss. Maybe I am. But those Atletico players did have a lot more recovery time than our players did. So Jordan, that's a very pertinent point you raised there. Had Matic and Ronaldo not played the weekend tonight, obviously they would have been probably playing 20%.
That's a common thing, though, what you just said. That happens all the time with the league,
all the time,
compared to Premier League.
Yeah. So maybe there's a case to be answered longitudinally by the Premier League, that when one of their big teams is drawn on a Tuesday, surely their game on a Saturday should be played at 12 o'clock or 12:30, or perfectly on Friday night.
There's a conflict of interest there, because we know that the FA never help out English clubs in the in the Champions League, because obviously the Premier League's its own beast. The one thing I'll defend Manchester United on, back in '99 when United won the treble, who was it that pushed Manchester United to go and play in that World Club Cup, which Sir Alex Ferguson wasn't 100% about going? It was the FA, because they believed it would look great for the Premier League if United competed in a World Club Cup. And ever since that day, everybody's held Manchester United sort of accountable for the demise of the FA Cup, and it means nothing anymore, because that season the FA let Manchester United, walk out of the FA Cup, and everybody said it was us, that the demise of the FA Cup, but when really it wasn't.
And also the backstory to that as well, England were trying to bid for the World Cup in 2006. They went to Germany, and they're trying to curry favour with FIFA to host the World Cup that Germany subsequently got. So United were put under immense pressure from the FA, and I think I would even say higher up in government to go and play that Mickey Mouse tournament in Brazil. I think the thing of that tournament, actually, memory serves, there was even a team from Australia playing it in a World Club so-called championship. So it was a Mickey Mouse tournament, and
a Mickey Mouse tournament.
I'd
absolutely love for us to win these days. So
oh yeah,
that was back when we could turn our nose up at tournaments like that. We can't anymore.
No, we can't. And it's going to be a long time, gentlemen, before we are playing in even an FA Cup final, let alone a World Club Championship. Gentlemen, we're obviously not going to do the full hour this evening because it's a late kickoff. We're all pretty tired and have work in the morning. We don't play now for 2 weeks.
Hallelujah.
Jordan, hallelujah is correct. Jordan, what does Radnick say to his players? Knocked out of Champions League tonight, embarrassed at home by Atleti. There is 2.5 months left of the season. You're Radnick now tonight. What are you saying to your players?
Yeah, it's not so much what Ragnick's gonna say. It's what I want to see the board do. The thing is now is that you look at the season and there isn't a lot to play for. Yeah, we're going to still go up for top four, but you look at Ten Hag is now out of Europe, Poch is now out of Europe. The board now can really go out and start making decisions, and things need to be happening. That's the noise that I want to hear now over these next 2 weeks about their intent for what is happening next season, because they clearly wrote this season off by putting an interim in. I think it's clear to all of us that Ragnick is not going to get the job and is not the right man to get the job. I'm not throwing shade at Ragnick. I know he's had a very difficult job, but he hasn't come in and done enough for me to convince me that he could take the team to another level. I think, do we all agree with that?
Well, on that, I know Adam we discussed on a show last Thursday that he wouldn't have an issue with Radnick getting the job next season rather than us getting Poch. And I tend to agree with him until tonight.
Yeah, but Alex hates Poch.
I was saying
yeah,
I was agreeing with him, but he said Adam, not me.
I said Adam. I said Adam.
But Adam is
no, but the gentleman.
Poch too.
It's only because I was like, look, you were naughty.
So I was like,
we can do Poch in a moment, gentlemen. But from what I saw tonight, my own personal belief is the players are not playing for Radnick based on the performances I've seen thus far. I'd also argue the litany of leaks that's come out of the dressing room to favour journalists in the media, that for me shows a complete lack of respect for the manager. So for me, I don't believe those players are taking the fact that we've got an interim here, we've got a new manager coming in anyway in May or June. I don't think they're taking his philosophies on board. Now, I know at the start when he was hired, we were all in a consensus that, okay, Ragnick's going to come in the season, he goes upstairs and the players should respond because ultimately he's going to have a say in their contracts. I don't believe he will have a say in the contracts of extending Harry Maguire or extending Rashford or any of the other players. I don't think he's going to have a say in it because, end of the day, the Glazers and the marketing men will want to extend Harry Maguire and Rashford because of the marketability and social media aspect. So I would argue right now, Radnick, I don't believe has wielded the little bit of power that he has. Because if he had wielded power, Harry Maguire, for me, would not be starting week in, week out. And secondly, he would not be bringing Rashford off the bench and trying to play Rashford into form. So after tonight, my consensus is, no, he's not the man for the job. And if he goes upstairs, what's he going to do? What power can he wield? Will he be allowed to wield power? Kevin, what do you think?
I think it's a good point. I kind of agree that if I would keep him for another season if you were offering either Rangnick or Pochettino. And it is an interesting one when he does go upstairs as to what kind of a say he has over this group of players. And that's the thing that's kind of pissed me off in a bit is I'm like, do these players not understand that this guy, he's not just here for a few months and then he's going. So it's not like they can just run the roost and, you know, this is our club and this, that. And even if they don't believe in the manager's philosophy or whatever, this guy's still going to be part of Manchester United and might have a big say in the next manager who's appointed at Manchester United. So from the players' point of view and that, I look at it and I think they're just showing such a lack of class. And it's not so long ago. I remember being at the Leeds game, was it, when Manchester United announced like Varane on the pitch, and you look at things like that and you're like, we're getting our club back here. We've, like Alex says, we've signed Ronaldo, Sancho. And at that moment in time, even under Solskjaer, you were thinking, we could actually challenge for the title this season. And lo and behold, since that kind of I'm not saying it's it is because Solskjaer's gone. Since Solskjaer's gone and Rangnick's come in, they clearly do not like somebody who's got a bit of discipline. And it just seems everything, and I mean absolutely everything, has fallen apart. But they still had these rumblings when Solskjaer was there. We had the contracts with Lingard. We know that Pogba, that one was rumbling on. And it just seems to be one thing after another. Stories coming out the dressing room. And I just can't believe we're at this point now, where we've been embarrassed so many times this season in the Premier League, and now we're out the Champions League.
I don't know if you guys were watching before the game, but when Scholes and Rio and Hargreaves were talking, they were like, "Oh yeah, what these players need is a manager they'll fear, like a Conte or I can't remember who they said, like a Simeone or someone like that, because there's no one accountable for when they act like this." But like what you just said, Kev, they've been shown a little bit of discipline by Ralph, and you see all these leagues instantly about like, oh, they don't want to train in the dark, they don't want to do this, they don't want to do that. And we saw it with Mourinho as well, and then Ollie was their perfect manager because Ollie was like a nice guy that he was like universally loved, but we weren't going to win stuff with him because they're not going to really like respond to that like aggression on the thing of like I think Fergie was like a master. I was going to say that they wouldn't have responded to Fergie, but Fergie was a master how he treated each player differently, and he knows that he would get a certain reaction out of certain players, but like Conte, we all thought like, and I still think like Conte out of this past group of players would have done a really good job. But next season's team is going to look completely different to what this season is. I think that's one thing that people are misunderstanding. Like we do need a clear out, and just simply because of like Greenwood being in jail, Cavani leaving, Pogba leaving.
Greenwood's not in jail.
Whoa, Alex, relax the cax, my friend. Relax the cax. Bloody hell. Oh my God.
Ronaldo potentially leaving because of the Champions League. And then you have De Gea's contract's potentially up next season. You have so many like of the massive players on the massive wages leaving. Lingard's on 100-something. He's leaving in summer. And like I said on a show like a while ago, it's like, even to just then, like not to panic people.
Okay, we've lost Alex.
Oh, he's gone.
Jordan, you want to pick up on the point that Alex was developing there? Is that this summer we are left with dross in that squad. We're left with the Maguires, the McTomleys, the Freds. I wouldn't put Luke Shaw into the dross category just yet, but he's teetering on the edge of it. Yeah. Ronaldo's gone, Cavani's gone. For me, we're left with David, Sancho, and a petulant Bruno. That's the nucleus of a squad. So, if you're Ten Hag, just say now you put on your Ten Hag hat. Now, I'm not asking you to do a Dutch accent. You're Ten Hag, and you know you got to come in, and you're at the behest of the marketing men at United. And they're telling you, okay, we're giving you two players. You can have a Declan Rice and another. Do you take that job?
No, absolutely not. Absolutely not. If that's the situation we're in, then yeah, Ten Hag's in a whole world of trouble. I do. The flip side of it, like I said, is you look the other way. Cavani potentially will move on. Pogba will move on. Ronaldo will probably move on. You know, Lingard's gone. Matic will probably go. Mata will go. That is a lot of money getting freed up off the wage bill, and a need to bring fresh blood into the squad. And I always remember reading in Roy Keane's autobiography him saying about even when they won the league, they used to get excited about the summer and see who was coming through the door, and like 2 or 3 new faces walk in and make everybody in the dressing room want to step their game up and show these new players that they are top dogs. Now, that's what this squad needs. It needs 4 or 5 new bodies coming in, and they become the spine of this rebuild, and not dragged down with the negativity of what's happened under Ollie and now going into the Rangnick era. I think that's what it needs. So, yes, you can look at it and say, okay, well, we're going to be left with the players that you named, but we also got to look at what's moved on and what needs to be brought in. So I actually think it's it's a good thing. It's the right time to draw a line in the sand and really make a rebuild. And the new manager, as long as the board gives him the tools, which that is the biggest thing for us, that we highly doubt they will. But there's no better time for the new manager to come in and have a rebuild where 5 or 6 players are moving on and the need to bring 5 or 6 of their own players in.
Kevin, to quote Adam's infamous phrase, time to have big balls to make big calls. Do you think the board has those balls to bring in 5 or 6 new players and basically just press reset?
I don't believe. I suppose it depends who they sell and what money they can actually get in. And what I will say is I never expected at the start of this season that we would be in this position now where I'm looking and thinking the last 3 years at Manchester United just seems to have really been a complete and utter waste of time. I don't feel we're any further on. I don't feel like any players really improved and kicked on. And it does come down to probably, as harsh as it sounds, the appointment of Solskjaer at the time. Maybe if we'd have got that appointment right, instead of getting a bit maybe giddy and excited about a certain night in Paris, not that one, then we'd be looking at a whole different story.
Oh my God.
Popped in there.
Real Tuesday is the reference.
Yeah, I've just thrown myself there. Totally. Oh, God.
Taking me back to my teenage years.
Always trust Kevin to bring a smile to our faces on a night where we came on here under a dark cloud of utter doom and gloom. Gentlemen, I'm not going to labour this point anymore. We're out of Champions League. Season is over. And it's time to press the reset. I would love, in an alternate universe, that we could just sim the season right now and just move forward to June, put in our new manager, and start buying, as Jordan rightly pointed out, 4 or 5 players to build a new spine and build a new ethos in a dressing room. Because right now, gentlemen, for me, that dressing room is absolutely dead. It's dead. It's buried. It's going nowhere. And we need a reset. So, Jordan, Kevin, Alex, thanks for coming on. I know it's one of our hardest shows, and we say every time it's one of our hardest shows. Well, now the rest of the season, the pressure's off because no matter what we do in the pitch, we're pretty much irrelevant. So I wish you all good night. Thanks for coming on. See you all soon.